Joining me today is Dr. Jeff Fastnacht. He's going to have to correct or help me out with pronunciation. I think anybody in BPS and surrounding areas might even have the same question, but he is the superintendent for Bismarck Public Schools. He previously was the assistant superintendent for Mandan Public Schools, but all of us in BPS were very lucky to have him join us this year. I know I could express as much gratitude myself for him as so many others in BPS in the fact that he's very present. Every picture he posts on social media later at night is at any sporting event possible in BPS, and he's in schools. He's not sitting in his office all day, so he's very present. And I know when I speak for many of us educators at every level that we are much appreciative of how present he was this past year and for years to come. So Dr. Fastnacht, I think I'm saying that correctly. Can you tell me about how your summer's going? Just got off school a couple weeks ago. I know, I'm sure you're in meetings still left and right all day long, as admin usually is, but how has your summer started off?
Well, first of all, let's just hit that your pronunciation is very good, Fastnacht, and you can just, Kyler, you can just call me Jeff. That's okay. That's too many formalities. So Jeff is just fine. And yeah, I just got back on Monday from my first vacation in about a year and a half with the transition, new job, new home, all those other things. So yeah, I'm feeling a little more refreshed, like had a little quiet time. My wife and I got to dash away to a nice cabin in the mountains that didn't have cell service. So that just made life great. So yes.
Well, I actually want to start way back at square one. I kind of looked into some profile and looked at your bio on BPS. So going back to your teaching career where it began, I believe, in Britain, South Dakota in 1991. Is that true?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So if you could take me back to the first years of your career, what did that look like? What do you remember about yourself in your first years in education?
Wow. Yes, 1991, just a brand new graduated of Northern State University, go Wolves, who went to had this wonderful opportunity to go to Britain, South Dakota and teach. I was probably, at that point, we still had stacks of elementary applicants for jobs that are about that deep, and you're in the world of being in elementary, and because we were men, we got pulled out and got interviews, and a couple of the other male elementary teachers that I knew, we were getting a lot of job opportunities, and Britain came along. I was very interested in town, nice, progressive, growing, progressive little community, got to go into and be a fifth grade teacher. So it was my very first job, and the best thing about that job was somebody was looking out for me. My partner teacher was Gloria Schultz, and Gloria was a very veteran, mature, well-practiced teacher that really honestly that was before mentoring, but took me under her wing and just helped this very young, energetic, excited teacher, in the hallways, excited my kids, but absolutely knew nothing. I mean, I look back and think how poorly prepared I was to begin teaching. And that was back in the whole language days where they said, just go read books. Your kids will learn. Just go read books. Think of the training we put you through now. And it just was a much different time. It was really standards. We didn't have a standards document to go look at and say, what am I supposed to do? No pacing guides, no like, hey, this is what you do first semester, is like, there's your books, go teach. And it provided a lot of opportunity for me to learn, but also to that creative part of me. I'm sure I'm a superintendent, so I'm just about the money now, just zeros and ones. But I have this creative side that I really like to do. I remember doing a whole unit on Charlotte's Web for fifth graders and immersing everything we did into Charlotte's Web, and just allowed me to be the creative educator that I wanted to be. And I also remember my first class, because I think I got the most difficult student in Britain Elementary, because I was like the one man, and they thought, I could work magic with him. And really all he taught me was, Jeff, you got to make better relationships with kids, because I fumbled and made mistakes with them. And it's like, I just need to take some more time to make those relationships. But it was 5 wonderful years. Just, I can't imagine being any other place. But.
So before I get into move into your admin career, years leading up till now, I know you just talked a little bit about just males in education, and I know personally, when I took my visit out to University of Mary, my mom worked at University of Mary for 25, 26 years, so I've been a marauder for years and years and years. So it wasn't a huge decision for myself to make, but I remember going in to their admin for their education program when I went and took my tour. And the guy basically said, if you come here, we'll have a job for you in 4 years. And that's not going to be trouble. And I went, haha, yeah, whatever. Like, I'm the 18-year-old senior in high school who, yeah, sure, I hope I have a job, But can you talk not just as a teacher, but what you've seen as a principal, what you've seen as assistant and a superintendent, just the impact or influence that you I know you and I have had a few talks along the way. We had a pretty major event in BPS a few months ago with some male teacher, and you kind of encouraging a few of us along the way to just keep being ourselves and that sort of thing. But what would you have to say to any male educators, whether they're at the high school or middle school level, or myself at the elementary school level?
In the secondary level, we still see a lot of dominance of a male educators, and I think that will probably continue to prevail. But in elementary setting, and I say this with all respect because I have an elementary trained wife. Okay, so I'm not taking away from the female sect at all. They absolutely always have had a crucial role in elementary education since the little one-room schoolhouses, when you couldn't even be married to be a teacher. But I think men bring in a different complexion to the classroom, maybe a different way we respond. I think men can be as much caring and empathetic. Kindergarten cop, you can say, we can do that just as well as females can. But I do think we have this wonderful opportunity to just lead our kids in a different way and be that exemplar for some kids. And I know, again, my experience when kids had females kindergarten through 4th grade, and then they come to 5th grade and they had their first experience. And by that time I had a 6th grade male counterpart. So 5th and 6th grade is the only time in Britain that you got a male teacher. Some kids really wanted that. They wanted to see, they needed that model to follow in their life. Like, this is how a man or male is supposed to respond. This is how we're supposed to act. And I just think we have a unique role in elementary school. And I still think it's true today. I would pull male teachers out of a stack. Just the stack's a lot thinner. Because I do think it's really important to have a nice blend in your elementary schools. So I think that's still true. I wish my son would have been a teacher. He's a great empathetic heart, but he decided instead of being a teacher, he wanted to be a cop. So I don't know how those two correlate, but I still think we have a really important role. And like you said, Kyler, that the events in BPS this year with another fellow male teacher, as much as that hurts because it's a male hurting kids and that we all feel, I don't think that can define us because there's so many of us doing the right thing. There's so many of us taking care of kids, being those wonderful, caring, nurturing male figures in kids' lives. So.
Absolutely. I know many males. I know there's not a ton of us just in Bismarck Public Schools, but I know many across the district, and I'm very grateful and happy to be associated with any of them. And I've been very fortunate to work with some of them. I know Mr. Steve Luger out at Lincoln, he's now transferring to Wilmore, but I have nothing but respect and admiration for he taught me more about being a male elementary teacher than I can even list, as well as my boy Dan Peterson, Noah Van Vorst, and the list could go on and on and on. Yeah. So we've got
there's a couple of my elementary teachers that were males are in our system. Dallas Hinder, I think I gave Mr. Hinder his first job. She worked for me in Ellendale. And if you think across the river, Todd Sheldon is a football coach, he's at secondary level now, but he was an elementary teacher, special ed teacher for me in Ellendale back as my early administrative days. So,
I did not know that. I taught middle school practicum with him, and he's now a big shot at Wachter. So I see him quite often. But yeah, awesome guy in Dallas Hinder. So you are become employed as a principal in Ellendale from 1996 to 2018. And I researched the profile a little bit, and I'm not just pulling these out of my head here. But all in all, making the jump to admin as principal, leading a school, however you want to look at it, what made you want to make the jump as a teacher into the administrative world?
I knew I wanted to be a school administrator probably the first year I became a teacher, and that had nothing to do with the job, had nothing to do with my experience being a teacher, because I love being a teacher. My desire to do that was based on my lighthouse, my shining star in my life, who I wanted to be. And I had a wonderful family, wonderful parents, but the person that I emulated in my childhood and wanted to be was my uncle, Larry Myers. And sorry, he's no longer with us now. He's passed away several years ago, but he was a middle school principal in suburban Denver, and basketball star. So I wanted to be a basketball star, and I wanted to be like my Uncle Larry in every way, shape possible. And he had a great relationship with kids. That was one of the things, you could just see how he interacted with his kids. At times I'd go visit him, or his neighbors, or his past students that he'd interact with. And they had this admiration and love for him that was just obvious, right? That he made an impact in their life. And so everything I did from my college career to become a teacher, to lead up to where it was, to what I'm trying to make my Uncle Larry proud. And so I went back to school within my second year in the classroom to go get my master's degree. And at that time, you couldn't do it online. I had to drive, and go to summer school. And so really, it was just kind of part of that desire to fill that role in the family and say, I can do this too, and maybe fill that aspirational goal to be my Uncle Larry. And it was a tough decision to jump up, and I really thought I was going to have a job in Britain as an elementary principal. It just didn't work out, and I think I interviewed in 4 different schools that year, got my first taste of rejection of not getting a job, and then got lucky to land a job in Ellendale.
So with the admin jobs, we talk about what it means to be a leader. I know we talk about this in PD, and we talk about this in days leading up to every school year, every summer, it feels like. I mean, even as a coach, a young coach, and a teacher, I mean, I could define leader like 30 different ways, and just viewing different people along the way. I know I've had 3 principals. I'll be in my 9th year teaching. I've had 3 principals, and I think they all kind of define the word leader in their own senses, and in very successful senses in that. But has your perspective of the word leader changed at all from when you taught to now being an admin, especially being a teacher, you see admin, and then being an admin, you see the teacher. So your perspective and your point of view kind of changes. But can you kind of describe what it means to you to be a leader, especially in the education world?
Wow, that's a really great question. Has it changed? Most definitely. It is light years different than when I first walked in, because at that point I thought, and I'm a principal. I'm 26 years old. I'm 26-year-old principal. I mean, I was really young, and probably could have really benefited from 5 more years in the classroom to really hone those skills. But I thought coming in, and I'm young, and I was with a very veteran group of teachers. I mean, these teachers have been teaching for 15, 20 plus years. And I remember making mistakes right away because I thought I needed to know the answers. I thought I needed to be able to provide the solutions. That's what principals do, right? I solve the problems. I'm just here to set the course, to like, follow me. You take me, go through fire. I'm right here. And didn't realize till later that I was probably running over some of the brilliant expertise in my building that really all I had to do was ask. And it was somewhere along that progression that I said or learned that there's brilliance in here. All you have to do is nurture it and guide it and lift it up, and then they will lead themselves. I don't need to do a lot of that. I'm here to clear the deck. I'm here to get rid of get rid of the clutter so you can do your job great, and help navigate some of those things. And it took a while to learn how to do that. It really did, to maybe build that confidence in yourself that this is the role you have. And maybe you learn that I have to deal with some of the bigger problems, and let teachers be teachers, let them do the work. You just have to give them the framework to help guide them. But it was an amazing time to be a young leader. But again, I still am really good friends with a couple teachers I know I went crossways with, and we had some real conflict with, and it really was about maybe some of my bravado, maybe some of mine, like, I know this is right, and didn't take time to listen as much as I have learned to listen now. Yeah.
I absolutely echo your voice there, in the sense that I know I'm on social media left and right, and I've seen tweets and posts about the best PD is sometimes the teacher down the hall, and I can't say that statement loud enough, especially being with the past couple of years, especially in Lincoln, being with teachers who are different than me. I mean, most teachers are probably different than me because I feel like I do a lot of things differently. That doesn't mean I do them right and they do them wrong, and vice versa. But I think the more I've learned, especially in the word study and phonics, and my fourth grade team who might be listening to this right now was probably smiling and chuckling, because I am definitely not your phonics word study teacher, but I have grown a lot in the last year from that. But again, you don't need the shiny, the massive conferences across the country to get better as a teacher. A lot of the times it's just the teacher down the hall who does something that you can mirror, not necessarily mirror image, because you want to do it your own kind of style, but just the system, the structure, the setup, that
Right.
sort of thing can go so well for you. So
Well,
I absolutely.
your analogy for leadership is already behind you. You put it on the wall for a reason, right?
Yep.
And as a leader of a school, it doesn't matter in what role that I've had a leader. Once I understood that my job is really to impact lives, to impact people, to make them better, to buoy them up and help them be the best version of themselves, they'll take care of the kids. You have to become focused. And I think Dr. Flowers gave me this advice as I was moving into Mandan, because I was losing a little control. When it's a small school, you have your fingers in a lot of things. And he said, Jeff, you have to really begin to take your affirmation of your job and feeling good about your job when you're just helping other adults be successful. And when they shine, you'll feel it. So.
Awesome. I like it. So, when you made the transition over to Bismarck Public Schools, of course, I had previously mentioned you were the assistant superintendent for Mandan. You make your way over to cross the river to Bismarck Public. Now reflecting on your first year as head man in charge, if you will, what are some of the experiences in Mandan, or any takeaways that you reflect and might have helped you a lot, or I don't know, some things you might have been surprised by, or you thought, oh, this is a lot easier than I thought it was going to be, being kind of, again, that head person. I know you're surrounded with very good people with the school board and everyone else involved, but what was kind of your approach in coming over to be the superintendent of Bismarck Public after being the assistant?
In my time in Ellendale, from 26 years old, I was a principal, and at 32 years old, I was a superintendent. And a couple of years in there, I blended, but I spent, what is that, almost 16, 15 years as a superintendent in a small town. So when I moved to Mandan, it was just learning a little bit about size, because again, I was in a school with 35 teachers. I mean, I can hit the whole staff in a day, and do that. It was scope and size. And I will tell you that was also pressure coming to Bismarck. Maybe you kind of led with that, getting out and being present, being with people. I just felt like that was really important, to go see people. I will tell you, I will probably meet you. I'll meet somebody else that I won't remember a name, because there's 1,500 teachers, and however many people. But I think that was one of the things I took from Mike and Dr. Bitts, who was superintendent in Mandan. He was a really good role model, and he wanted to get out to a school every single day. Now, of course, a lot fewer schools, right? But we would go out and have lunch almost in a school every day. We just go out and have kid lunch. We just have kid lunch, stop in a teacher's workroom, wherever, talk to teachers. And he really instilled that in me, like, you got to get out, you got to leave this office, get out there and see people at an event, or walk the hallways and just be present. And I think that was a fear for me. It's like, how am I going to do that? That's 30 some buildings. That's a lot. I'm only going to see you twice a year. You know what I mean? And that was one of the fears. And then I think the other one is how do I communicate with empathy and connectedness? Because I've been in small schools where everybody knows me, everybody knows my family, to Mandan, which really after a year or two, and because of COVID, I think the staff really got to know each other and people trusted me. They knew who I was, what my value set was. And I really felt like, how do I convey that to you, who I only might meet once a year, that you can trust me? I'm working for you. I hopefully hear what your challenges are in the classroom and try to convey that here's where we're going, here's why we're going here, and I'm taking you into account, and I want to hear from you, and just having that trusting relationship. And it's hard to do when you're trying to talk to 3,000 people. Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, again, I think I echo so many voices in BPS for just being able to see you. And I mean, you're in all of our schools, and I also say that in the sense that he's not the big scary superintendent that walks through the doors and you're like, oh my gosh, Dr. Jeff is here. Everyone act normal. Everyone act like everything is okay here. But I mean, you come in, of course, with the presence of being the superintendent, but you also have a demeanor of just being another educator in the building. So we greatly appreciate everything you've done in your first months as our superintendent. I'm kind of going more off of a positive note in BPS, as again in admin and on the school board with all of your other representatives. What is one thing, or maybe even multiple things, that you yourself, along with the school board, is proud of that you might have accomplished this past year in BPS? And hopefully that's a really long list, but if you could pick out a couple that you guys have accomplished for yourselves that'll impact our community and our kids and our teachers.
I'm gonna piggyback off my last comments with you, Kyler, because I do think having that communication, that trust. I mean, you heard it first day, right? We're in the event center. We talk about trust and how we build trust. And I think that's something we've tried to do, not only internal, me to you guys, the internal staff, but also as a board to say, okay, if you want to build trust in the community, we have to be transparent. We have to just answer the questions. We're not here to hide anything. We're going to be more intentional and we created those subcommittees, those priority committees, to try to get more representation from our patrons on those and our public, because I want to hear those voices. And when you open up a little bit and, when you take the breastplate off a little bit and show a little vulnerability about what we're doing and why we're doing it, then I think it helps build trust. And I'm very proud of the work that the board has done in that regard to help build trust by openness, communication, transparency, those things. I really think that'll be the catalyst for the next 5 years or longer, that we can do that work and do it well, even when the challenges come. If people in the community know, like, the challenge we have this year or the challenge we have in the future, if they know that, I can process, I've seen how they process a problem because they've been transparent in what they've been going through, then they say, okay, I can trust them to handle this one. Or as they're handling it, you're just sharing with us what we're going through, what the big decisions are, what are the things I have to consider. And I think people respect that versus we just made a decision. We didn't tell you anything about it. We just made a decision, didn't tell you why we did it or when we did it or, anything, what led us to that determination. I just don't think that works. And I mean, the videos I send you, the videos I do in the community, the newsletter articles, those things are, the social media posts are all attempts to try to build that transparency. Like, this is what we're doing. This is what's keeping us busy every day. I'm really proud of that. The other one probably is, for me, getting a little tighter with governance. I mean, for me, this is the first district I ever worked at with coherent governance. Had no background in that. So it was a lot of learning for me the first half of the year. But now that I'm kind of in it, I'm really proud of the work we're doing, trying to tie coherent governance to what you do in the classroom, like the operations, to highly reliable schools and our strategic plan, and saying they really should be all helping us go the same direction. I will tell you, they seem a little fragmented, but I think this next year or two, we're going to be able to start that process of bringing those together and be walking the same direction instead of kind of, why am I doing this? We're doing this over here. As a teacher, I got frustrated when it's like, oh, it's the next new initiative. It's the next new initiative. It's like, well, no, they should all be marching in the same way. They're going the same direction. So, yeah, bless you.
Yeah, excuse me. Sounds good. All right, so we kind of going back to, I know I've talked about your presence multiple times, but you even had an experience in one of our classrooms, in one of our third grade classrooms, and I know you've taught in the classroom, you've taught in fifth grade, I believe you mentioned, but you were in Mrs. Claremont's third grade classroom at Lincoln Elementary. I think she won a drawing or a contest of some sort where the superintendent came in and subbed for an afternoon, and
yes,
I'll say she was very nervous about that. She's like, I don't know if my sub plans are perfect. I don't know how my kids are gonna act. I'm like, if you tell your kids the superintendent's coming, I think they'll act just fine. But can you talk about that experience and your day in an afternoon in third grade at Lincoln?
Well, I will tell you, as nervous as she may have been, I was equally as nervous because, no offense, I have those skills. I know I have a degree. I know I can do it, but I don't dust them off every day, right? So even being intimidated by some third graders, I was intimidated by some third graders coming in, but she left great plans. I knew exactly where to go. She had everything lined up. So I just had to execute, and actually thoroughly enjoyed being around children again and their questions and what they want to know. I mean, honestly, we had to take a little time out, like boop, boop, we're going to take 10 minutes because the questions are on. You're like, let's just sit in a circle group. I'll give everybody a post-it note, write a question down, and I'll answer questions, and just their interest in like, who are you and what do you do? Because most people have no idea what I do. It's like, superintendent, what do you do? I mean, what's your job? So that was really fun. And even she probably doesn't want to know this, but even at one point during that time, I even had to say, okay, gentlemen, you got to kind of rein it in. We got to bring it down a little bit. It's like, Jeff, you got to remember, there's got to be boundaries somewhere, so they were wonderful, great kids. Their lessons were good. Actually, there was a point in that meeting I shared, I think, with my wife. It's like, what our kids do now is not what I did in third grade.
Yeah.
What your kids do in fourth grade is not what I did in fourth grade. I'll guarantee you. And I think people, the general public, when they maybe criticize public education, it's not the same. It is completely different than it was 25 years ago. And our kids are doing much more creative, deep learning than we ever thought of doing in the 70s when I was in fourth grade. So,
yeah, I'd say even being 30 years old, they're into a lot. I mean, they're surrounded by technology. They're distracted. They're everything. I mean, not that adults aren't distracted, but sometimes I have to even pause myself and like, why are you into? Oh, it's because you're 10 years old. That's right. So, but immersing yourself as a teacher into their interests is also is also fun and enjoyable because then you know what they're talking about, and it also keeps you young. So,
but to be a kid today, where I don't know about you, but if I wanted to learn a topic, I had to grab an encyclopedia and read it. That's the only resource I had. And now, if I want to build something or I want to get into a topic or whatever, I can YouTube it. I can find it. I can get tutorials on it. I can learn it like that. It's like we just live in a different world, so.
Correct. All right, but before we sign off, is there, as educator to educator, and I've gotten to talk with so many great people, not just in education, but coaching, some authors, some keynote speakers. As an educator, especially male educator to male educator, are there any questions that you have for myself, especially being both in Bismarck Public Schools now, any sort of thing like that?
Well, I think I'll ask you the same question. Hopefully I asked you when I met earlier this year, and what I've tried to ask every single teacher I've met this year is like, how you doing? How's your day? And then how can I help you be better? And really, how can I help you be better? Because that's my job. That's what I'm supposed to do. So.
It's been good. I'm at Lincoln. I've been at Lincoln for 8 years now, I think. Seven years. It'll be my 9th total, so it'll be 7 years at Lincoln. I'm surrounded by the best people I could possibly imagine. I would name them, but then I'd probably leave somebody off the list. So I know all the originals from Lincoln. I mean, people find different positions elsewhere. People leave education for whatever reasons they have. But I've been so fortunate to not just work for great people, but work with great people. I know the last couple of years that we've had so many staff, especially with with Jill Vallejo heading to a different school, to get some more positive culture at Wilmore and having some new admin come in. A lot of faces change. But I've been so fortunate to work with some great people, not just as educators, but people themselves. I've allowed myself to be very uncomfortable in senses. Like I said, we piloted Wit and Wisdom and 95% group, which took me about as far out of my education comfort zone as you could possibly get. But when you take it day by day, you keep learning. I had two women on my fourth grade team who are very much so into UFly and word study. They were talking about it like it was just casual conversation, and I'm sitting here going, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I am not passionate about this whatsoever. But and along with that, I also had a student teacher, so I was kind of trying to help her while I help myself at the same time. But I think BPS will come out even stronger. I know it's both of the curriculums at once were a massive time commitment, but I think BPS gradually over the next couple of years, if we get further and further into those, will rise towards the top just because of the rigor and the questioning and just doing a lot of purposeful work. I know it's exhausting, but education and teaching is exhausting on a daily basis. But like I said, I've been so fortunate to work not just for great people, but alongside so many great people, regardless of how many years it was. So I'm doing great. I can usually pretty much take care of myself pretty well. And in the summertime, I've learned to allow myself to disconnect, allow myself to have those days where you don't do much. I know I opened with you earlier saying I did some DoorDash today, and I do that probably 2 or 3 days a week and make a little bit of money, but it gets me off my butt. It gets me out doing something. And like I said, I mean, I'll take a day off, and by noon I'm like, okay, I need to go do something because we're so used to being busy all day long and talking to people all day long and instructing and reading directions, and allow ourselves to slow our brain down for not just a couple days but a couple months it's good for you. But I know early on in my teaching career, I wanted to teach summer school, and then I wanted to do this, and then August rolls around and I have football season in school and just get back to, and then you're like, oh, well, there goes the summer. I didn't even give myself a chance to chill out for a little bit. But I know Christy Karsh over at Lincoln, along with a few others, have definitely reminded me that this is hard. Like teaching is hard. It's you need to take a break for yourself and not feel guilty about society telling you that you have 3 months off. And I still hear plenty of friends and family say, oh yeah, you didn't do anything today. I'm like, I did 9 months of work in 12 months time. So so that's definitely helped me a lot, especially in the summertime. But
and when they say that, you'll say, I have an opening for you to come into my classroom next week. Come on over. Let's see how you feel at the end of the day.
Correct. I love those Facebook comments of people complaining about the teacher shortage, and they say, well, we need a sub tomorrow in third grade if you want to show up to the school. No, I can't do that.
No. Yeah, I don't want to do that.
But no, I greatly appreciate everything you guys do as school board. I know, like I previously mentioned, we can see you at just about every sporting event in Bismarck, even not just one high school, but all of them across. And your presence has made a difference, and we see you and we appreciate all you do for us. So looking forward to much more as time goes on.
I have the easy job, Kyler. You've heard me say that before. My job's easy. Your job's hard.
Yeah.
Educator's job is the hardest job in the district. And I so much appreciate you and your colleagues for what you do every single day. And go get some rest, would you?
Will do. Going to a Larks game tonight. So sit in the sun and watch baseball. Sounds great to me. So,
all right.
Have a good rest of your summer. Thank you for joining me.
Have a wonderful day.